This is a lecture for Adler Graduate School course number 715, Holistic Assessment and Metaphor Therapy. This lecture provides training in the holistic assessment procedure. There is another video on the course page that illustrates the process. This material was drawn from the Holistic Assessment Training Manual that is in Paul Shotland's 1979 dissertation. The holistic assessment procedure is an assessment process for deriving lifestyle beliefs from interview data, and this lecture will introduce you to a step-by-step approach to this process. For the course, you will be applying this process to a therapy transcript, receiving feedback on your interpretations, and viewing the interpretations of your fellow students. You will also be generating a lifestyle formulation using the rubric I am, others are, the world is, and my goal is. Before we get started on the step-by-step process, I want to talk a bit about the foundations of holistic assessment. Holistic assessment was first developed by Richard Kopp in the early 1970s, stimulated by Alfred Adler's law of movement and emphasis on the unity of the personality, as well as Rudolf Dreikер's idea of intensive diagnosis. In holistic assessment, Kopp focuses on the pattern of speech of a person, deriving lifestyle hypotheses from the word choices they make as they talk. Lifestyle convictions about self, others, and the world, as well as the subjective goal of significance, are assumed to be evident in a person's speech. The holistic assessment process takes the specific words used by a person as the data from which lifestyle may be discerned. As we will see, the holistic assessor pays attention to the verbs, adverbs, and metaphors that a person uses to talk about any issue. In this assessment process, it is not the content that is focused upon. Rather, it is the style or process of the person's thinking that serves as a foundation for deriving lifestyle beliefs. In this way, Kopp is approaching interview data in a manner that parallels how he interpreted early recollections. Holistic assessment begins by identifying the key style words or phrases in the dialogue. If you are working with a transcript, as we are in this course, you begin by reading it over and underlining the words or phrases that stand out as expressive. These are usually going to be the verbs, adverbs, and metaphors used by the person. Verbs are especially important to pay attention to because they are expressions of movement and are often indicative of the person's line of psychological movement, which refers to the way in which a person strives for significance and security. Adverbs are important because they describe how the movement takes place. They modify the verb. 3 types of metaphorical language are included as key style words or phrases. A general image metaphor emphasizes description, as in the phrase, I am as quiet as a church mouse. An action metaphor emphasizes movement, as in the phrase, the problem I run into. Feeling metaphors focus on affect, as in I feel like I am tied up in knots, or I feel stuck. The most important thing at this stage of the holistic assessment process is to get sensitive to words and phrases that are expressive of psychological movement. Bernard Schulman refers to this kind of listening as interlinear diagnosis, reading between the lines for lifestyle. I like to think of it as lifestyle listening, listening for the beliefs and the movement of the person. Let's spend a bit more time defining metaphor. We will be also looking at this definition in greater detail later in the course when we focus on using client-generated metaphors in psychotherapy. A metaphor is a figure of speech that identifies something as being the same as some unrelated thing for rhetorical effect, thus highlighting the similarities between the two. When you portray a person, place, thing, or an action as being something else, even though it is not actually that something else, you are speaking metaphorically. One of the most commonly cited examples of a metaphor in English literature is from a monologue in William Shakespeare's play, As You Like It. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances. This quotation expresses a metaphor because the world is not literally a stage. By figuratively asserting that the world is a stage, Shakespeare uses the points of comparison between the world and a stage to convey an understanding about the mechanics of the world and the behavior of the people within it. Metaphorical language usually develops the relationship between the two unrelated things, expressing an implicit quality of relationship and amplifying the meaning that is communicated. It can express psychological movement in powerful ways, as in, he wanted to set sail on the ocean of love, but he just wasted away in the desert, which would be hard to express in declarative language. Some metaphors are widely used in our common language. They are called conventional metaphors. Calling a person a night owl or an early bird, or saying life is a journey, are conventional metaphors that are commonly heard and understood by most of us. Other examples of conventional metaphors include, my brother was boiling mad. This assignment was a breeze. It is going to be clear skies from now on. The skies of his future began to darken. Her voice is music to my ears. Conventional metaphors or figures of speech may not contain as much lifestyle data as metaphors that are spontaneously created. But in the holistic assessment process, they are identified and interpreted in just the same way. Step 2 in the holistic assessment process involves making sense of the style words and phrases, developing hypotheses about the lifestyle beliefs and goal that are being expressed in the word or the phrase. One method for doing this is to make metaphorical sense of the word or phrase. The focus here is on the way in which the person presents a situation as reflecting their typical way of moving through life in general. This involves understanding the person's style words or phrases as a reflection of a more generalized attitude or line of movement. For example, if a client were to ask the therapist where to sit at the beginning of their initial interview, the therapist might infer a more general personality attribute, a line of movement of insecurity and needing guidance from others. Another strategy for developing lifestyle hypotheses from style words or phrases involves empathic inference. In this process, the lifestyle listener experientially identifies with the image conveyed and strives to see with the client's eyes and hear with their ears, grounding and centering themselves on the experience of the client. Holding this perspective, perceiving through the eyes and ears of the client, the lifestyle listener inquires about several things. First, given the way I feel, what do I believe about myself? What are my strengths and weaknesses? Second, maintaining the empathic perspective, how must life be in order to evoke this in me? What does life have to offer? How does life treat me? Third, what are my relationships like? How do others interact with me? Do my perceptions and expectations of males and females differ? And fourth, what makes me feel worthwhile, significant? How do I achieve significance? What are my methods for gaining significance? Not every style word or phrase is going to provide information for each of these inquiries, but it is useful to look at each one from each of these perspectives. Be sure to note any hypotheses that come to you as you shift through these 4 different empathic inquiries. Record your thoughts in the first person, as if the client were saying it in the present tense. These 2 steps are illustrated on another video on the course page. Once you have gone sentence by sentence through the transcript and identified style words for each sentence, and then have generated lifestyle hypotheses from each of the style words, The third step in the holistic assessment process is to integrate all of the hypotheses that have been generated from the style words into a lifestyle summary. We use the lifestyle rubric: I am, others are, the world is, and I am significant when. The primary principle guiding this stage of the process is that the lifestyle is a unity and is self-consistent. It is the task of the lifestyle listener to find a level of consistency in the beliefs and psychological movement that are found in the style words and phrases. Lifestyle has been described as a pattern of rules developed to make sense of life by Bernard Shulman. He goes on to describe the lifestyle as an adaptive pattern established by the person to get through life. When one hypothesis seems to contradict another, it is the task of the lifestyle listener to search for and identify a new pattern that incorporates all of the observed facts. Dreikurs referred to this style of thinking as 2 points of a line reasoning, identifying the line of movement that incorporates both of the points of data. There is a lecture and a series of exercises in this course on this process, which you can complete before attempting an integration of your hypothesized lifestyle beliefs.